Resident Evil has celebrated 25 years of relevance in the gaming community as of the date of this recording. Not every gaming franchise can celebrate this achievement, as many franchises that have gained success and prominence early on have unfortunately been challenged and unable to sustain their success to the same level as Resident Evil. The ability to adapt and change with the gaming world is one of the many reasons Resident Evil is Capcom's most lucrative franchise, surpassing sales of other Capcom franchises such as Monster Hunter and Street Fighter. In this video, we're going to cover gameplay elements from each game, from the first Resident Evil released in the mid-90s all the way to Resident Evil 8. We will only cover the original releases of each of the main numbered games, with the only non-numbered Resident Evil included on this list being Resident Evil Code Veronica. There are many other side games included in the franchise, but to keep this list focused on the main games that carries the ongoing saga forward for this Capcom franchise, we'll just explore these 9 games. And one added note, I will not spoil anything on Resident Evil 8. My first time hitting the start button on the game was to record what you will watch, and unlike many thumbnails I've seen on YouTube that ruin the story, I will not do any of that in this video, not just because I want to let everyone who watches this uncover the story for themselves, but also because I haven't really played it. I wanted to finish this video, then get right to the game. But without further ado, let's get started. Resident Evil 1. This game was originally being developed as a Sweet Home remake, which was an 8-bit game that was originally released on the Famicom in Japan. However, Capcom had to redesign the game when they could not use the Sweet Home license, and as a very important added tidbit, though they wanted to make the game a first-person perspective game, they decided to change the design when they felt they couldn't match what their vision was. So what did they design as the revolutionary first title in the franchise? Here it is. Number 1. Items when picked up are rendered in 3D. 2. Backgrounds are fixed and pre-rendered. 3. Your character was controlled by tank controls. 4. The enemies are rendered in 3D, though low polygon count. 5. Main enemies are zombies. 6. Item management assisted by item boxes with unlimited storage found throughout the game. 7. Saved managed by ink ribbons and typewriters. 8. They used live actors for many story segments, with mid-story cutscenes using polygon characters. 9. 2 main playable characters. 10. 1 main gameplay area, the mansion. 11. Main gameplay emphasizes horror, puzzles, inventory management, and action. And now the defining trait. I'm going to give a defining trait and a genre title for each of these games. So the defining trait of this game is that it was the first game in the franchise and it did an excellent job with inventory management in survival horror. And finally, the genre that this game fits into is, of course, survival horror. Resident Evil 2 was an incredible sequel that took a number of years to develop and enhance the previous game's innovation. Here's what changed in the sequel. 1. Items are no longer rendered in 3D in items management. 2. Cutscenes are now all pre-rendered. No live action characters. 3. Though the game has 2 main characters, the game adopts an A and B story for both characters. 4. Zombies are now more fleshed out with higher detail. Other traits from the previous game roughly remain the same. The game's defining gameplay trait this time is the aforementioned disc zapping system that allowed for replayability. The genre title that this game fits into is also survival horror. Resident Evil 3 came out in a time where the next generation of consoles was about to take hold, but Capcom had one more Resident Evil trick up its sleeve for the original PlayStation. Here's what changed from the previous game in this sequel. 1. The game developed a quick turn for the characters and a dodge reflex. 2. The game only had one major protagonist for most of the story, though a side character was playable for a short time. 3. Rather than being confined to one main area, the game expands to multiple areas throughout a desolate city. 4. Story branched off in different points of the game, letting you make quick choices. The game's defining gameplay trait is the nemesis monster that chases you through much of the game. He added increased tension throughout the campaign. The genre title I'd assign to this game is Survival Action Horror. Resident Evil Code Veronica was the first game to be released on a console capable of higher resolution, polygons, and gameplay mechanics that was not possible on any other console at the time. Though it's not a numbered Resident Evil game, many consider it a true follow-up to Resident Evil 2 and the continuation of the incredible story. So let's look at what this game innovated. 1. The gameplay used fully rendered 3D backgrounds instead of pre-rendered backgrounds. 2. This game also featured dual weapons to allow you to shoot multiple enemies at once. 3. Zombie physics took somewhat of a downgrade. 4. The 3D cutscenes now incorporated a moving camera. The game's defining gameplay was the fact that as you walked or played, the camera could now move with the character, bringing you deeper into the world of Resident Evil. The genre title that this game will get is one that's back to its roots, survival horror. It took 5 years and a number of retries before Resident Evil 4 would be accomplished after Resident Evil Code Veronica, and it shows. Up to this point, Resident Evil games had been mostly the same in terms of gameplay, using tank controls, zombies, and self-destruct endings for the most part. To add to that, at the time, Nintendo had an exclusive deal with Capcom to get 3 numbered Resident Evil games only on the GameCube. When I first heard this news, I thought that we would probably get RE4, 5, and 6 on the GameCube. Capcom, being Capcom, instead delivered RE0, RE1 Remake, with both using tank controls, and then finally, Resident Evil 4. This game took the franchise and the gaming industry by storm, with changes that were necessary in order to get audiences excited about Resident Evil again, rather than just playing another tank-controlled zombie horror game. Let's review the new gameplay mechanics. 1. No more zombies. Enemies are smarter, work together, and speak thanks to the Type A Plaga infection. 2. Inventory is now handled by Inventory Tetris, and supplemented by purchases from a merchant. 3. Typewriter saves are unlimited. 4. The biggest change, no more tank controls. Now we have the creation of over-the-shoulder third-person perspective. The defining gameplay trait is definitely the new over-the-shoulder perspective, but also just as important are the enemies and all-around action. We will assign the genre of this game as Action Survival Horror, thanks to the new changes. With RE4's critical reception, Capcom had to follow up with another sequel that would take advantage of the new gameplay mechanics and enhance the graphics in preparation of the new generation of consoles at the time. The result was Resident Evil 5, which released a few years after Resident Evil 4, with impressive graphics and a detailed, cohesive story. But was it what fans were hoping for? Here's what Capcom added to the new RE formula in this game. 1. This was the first time you can play the Resident Evil main campaign with 2 characters at the same time. Not only that, but this change allowed for multiplayer experience for the entire story. 2. Inventory management was now managed between 2 characters. 3. Less horror, a lot more action-oriented gameplay. The game's defining trait was cooperative play with heavy reliance on action. This game deserves the genre title of Action Game with Tense Scenes. And now we reach Resident Evil 6. Let me be completely transparent on this game. I never really played through this game at all. You see, Resident Evil 5 had a pretty conclusive ending and feel. It almost felt that there was nothing left to do. Umbrella was gone, Wesker was killed. Anything else would feel like just overkill. So when Resident Evil 6 was released and it didn't look like much had changed, I was over it. It seemed Capcom knew this too and wanted to focus on not only getting new players into the franchise who weren't really into horror, but also win some old fans back by adding horror-based gameplay as well, with a seemingly huge budget and over-the-top production on this game. Did it get it right? Not sure. I never really played it until I recorded the footage for you guys. Let's go over the updates to this game when compared to Resident Evil 5. 1. The new main virus was not the T virus, but the C virus. 2. Inventory management was updated and different from previous games. 3. This game had 4 main characters with 4 different playstyles to accommodate what gamers wanted to play. From horror to action to being a spy character. The game's defining trait was definitely its over-the-top scenes and action combined with different playstyles to try to please everyone. This game deserves a genre of Michael Bay. Don't know what else to call it, but within the first few minutes of the game, you can't disagree. Resident Evil 5 sold well, but had mixed reviews. Resident Evil 6's review score and sales started a downward tip of the series that Capcom did not want to continue. Resident Evil was Capcom's best-selling franchise, so they knew if they were going to reinvigorate the series, they would have to start from the drawing board again. Welcome to Resident Evil 7, a game that would take the world by surprise. Capcom really did it with this one. Let's not only look at what it brought new to the table, but also what it brought back. Number 1. First-person perspective gameplay. This was a goal for the franchise since before the first Resident Evil was created. The technology finally existed so that Capcom could bring it to life. Number 2. No more zombies, or Plaga. The main enemies are infected with something called the Molded, which was spread by E001, also known as Evelyn. So yeah, that's the new stuff. But what did this game bring back from the original trilogy of games? Here we go. 1. Item boxes with unlimited storage. 2. Saving via save room. Previous games used a typewriter. This game just used a tape recorder. 3. One location being the main focus of the game. 4. Inventory management. The defining trait that this game has would have to be the switch to first-person perspective for their new protagonist. Regarding genre, I'm proud to say that Capcom figured it out. I'm proud to say that Resident Evil 7's genre is survival horror. And now Resident Evil 8. We finally made it. Resident Evil 7 proved to the fans that Capcom still had what it takes to deliver an incredible story and game in the Resident Evil franchise, and the fans proved to Capcom that if you give the fans what they desire while making the game feel fresh, we will praise the game and separate ourselves from our hard-earned money. Resident Evil 8 continues Ethan's story with many additional surprises. As a reminder, I will not spoil the story, as I've only played the first few minutes of the game to record the footage for this video. I've also avoided spoilers online, as I want to experience the game's story for myself. With that being said, here's what I can say I know as of this point that's new to the franchise in Resident Evil 8. 1. New type of infection? I'm not sure yet, but these citizens don't really show traits of any other previous infections of the franchise. 2. A new merchant has returned, along with the returning Tetris-style inventory management from Resident Evil 4. 3. Saves are once again auto-saved, at least as far as I've played. 4. The game will take place in a larger environment, reminiscent of the 4th game again. Defining trait of this game from what I know so far is just the larger environments with a vast array of new enemy types, calling back to Resident Evil 4. Genre title is a bit tricky to call since I haven't played the game thoroughly yet, but at this point so far I'd say it's survival action horror. And that about does it. What did you guys think of the video? I'm sure I've left out a lot of other traits each game in the franchise threw at us, but I wanted to keep this video as simple and as concise as possible. What would you have included? Let me know in the comments below, and if you would like the video, it would help me a ton, as more people will watch the video and I could finally, hopefully, get my channel to over 1,000 subscribers. As always, thank you, and see you guys next time.